Sir Walter Bodmer's epic study of Britain's DNA has provided an extraordinary new insight into our ancient origins. His team have been able to link people in the West Country and Wales with the earliest permanent inhabitants of Britain, the hunter-gatherers and their Celtic descendants. They've also identified a strong Anglo-Saxon genetic signal in the east of Britain and found distinctive Norse Viking genes in the Orkney Islands. As testing continues around the country, Sir Walter's DNA map of Britain will gather even more detail. But time is running out. The world is shrinking. 21st century life is becoming ever more mobile and cosmopolitan. Our genetic roots are becoming increasingly tangled and impenetrable. In 20 years, a project like this will probably be impossible.
I think a large part of the fascination for me is simply that this is the last chance. It's now or never.
Absolutely. I think we're really quite on the cusp, the margin of being able to do this even now. And that comes with the mobility of the trains, the motor car, the planes, people living all over the place. You know, we're going to be a global village eventually. And who knows in 100 years' time what sort of a mix there'd be. And so the opportunities for looking back in this way are rapidly disappearing.
The Battle of Hastings unleashed the last continental conquest of Britain. But almost 1,000 years have passed since then, and they've witnessed regular influxes of new people, immigrants to Britain from every corner of the globe.
In the 19th century, Britain became the world's first and greatest industrial power, the workshop of the world. London was, and arguably remains, the world's financial capital, and it opened its doors to the world.
No other city in Europe has as much genetic diversity as London. Nearly 300 different languages are spoken. As much as 30% of London's population is made up of minority ethnic groups, and every major world religion is practiced here.
But as local historian David Mander points out, for Hackney at least, this is nothing new. Kingsland Road, which runs south to the city, dates back to antiquity.
It does feel today as though almost every population on the planet's represented.
It's a pattern set down 2,000 years ago. We are standing just off a road that was built by the Romans and would have seen a diversity of people from all over the empire as soldiers and traders using it.
At what point do we start to see the real mixing that's going on today?
It's after the Second World War, and it's two stages. It's in this area where we are now in Dalston, it's the Caribbean population who start to come in from the later 1950s. Then you start to get other waves of people, for example, Turkish people who have a mosque presence at one end of the Kingsland Road. There's the West African presence that started from the 1980s onwards, followed by the Vietnamese communities, and the first refugees came over after the collapse of South Vietnam.
So there's a powerful magnet here that has drawn people and still does.
Yes, and that will be true for the new populations coming in, the people from Poland and Russia, who are actually beginning to form the next wave.
So far in this series, we've created 14 typical faces, representing different regions in Britain. But with these islands becoming ever more mixed, is it possible to create a new face that accurately represents the whole of Britain today? We asked Dr. Tony Little. Armed with statistics from the 2001 census, many hundreds of digital photographs and the latest face recognition technology, he has created, for the first time, a composite, modern face of Britain, male and female. And here they are.
The faces that we've been looking at have been the product of much older blood, older migrations, older invasions. So this is a more realistic representation of the face of a multicultural Britain.
I agree, and I think it'll be very interesting to see how the face of Britain changes in the future.
The blood flowing in our veins reveals that the British stock has had remarkable continuity. Amazingly, most of us still carry DNA brought to these shores by those first hunter-gatherers who colonised our islands 10,000 years ago. But But as our Oxford study shows, others have contributed to our genes. Anglo-Saxons and Vikings didn't just bring their culture. In some parts of Britain, they left a deep genetic footprint. In truth, the populations of these islands are constantly being regenerated by the arrival of new people, all of them contributing to the ever-changing face of Britain.
Find out how to investigate your ancestors at channel4.com/history.